Welcome to Love and Abuse, the show about helping you identify poisonous communication and toxic behavior. You deserve to be treated with respect and kindness. That's why it's important that you learn to pinpoint manipulative and controlling behavior so that you keep your power and your sanity. I'm your host, Paul Coliani. All right, today I want to help you avoid a ridiculous game that some people will play, and it typically happens, I don't know, while you're breaking up or after the breakup if you're in a relationship. This is mostly with romantic relationships. When you are with someone for a while and then you move on, somebody might do something called breadcrumbing to you. And this can happen outside of romantic relationships as well. But it's a manipulation tactic. It's a way to influence you to continue thinking about the person so that they have some level of control of your life. And this might be someone who doesn't even want you back, but they want to be able to keep you thinking about them. So you could be just getting over them, just getting to the point where you're feeling good in yourself, and then suddenly you get a text. And it says, "Hey, how you doing?" It's completely unrelated to the breakup. It's completely unrelated to the problems that you experienced. It's just, "Hey, how's it going?" It's a very non sequitur to get. It just happens out of the blue, and it's almost as if they know you're starting to heal. You're starting to get over them or have gotten over them. I remember this happened when I was married. My wife would receive these messages every now and then from her ex. And one of them was a happy birthday. And yeah, that's okay, but it's kind of weird because they broke up and they stopped communicating. And then one day he just sends out of the blue, "Happy birthday." I would call that a feeler message. I would call that someone who wants to reach out and feel what kind of reaction they're going to get. But he's done that before, not just on her birthday. He's done that on other occasions, usually months and months apart, where he'll just send something out to have him pop up in her mind. And I didn't know it was breadcrumbing back then, but now I realize I know for sure it was breadcrumbing just because of the pattern that I kept seeing in him. And she also told me that he had many girlfriends that he would keep in touch with. And this made me think that, this is probably even more so breadcrumbing because oftentimes a breadcrumber will have many people that they're keeping in touch with that way. And it's not really keeping in touch. It's just putting their image in your mind. It's making you remember them in some way. This is why it's important sometimes when you are in a relationship that you go no contact, that you actually block them. I mean, if they've been toxic in some way and you just don't want to deal with them anymore, it's sometimes good to go no contact, to block them from your phone, to block them from your social media, so that they can't see anything that you're doing and they can't reach you. Because even if they're serious about getting you back and they've gone through some healing and they've gotten some epiphany and they want you back and they can't reach you, they're going to seek you out. They're going to try to find a way. I mean, you may not want them to, but someone who's really serious, who really wants to get you back, isn't going to say, "Hey, how's it going?" They're just not going to throw that out there and hope you bite. They're fishing. I don't want you to fall for that fishing, or in this case, breadcrumbing. So I'm going to read you the definition that I have for breadcrumbing, which is on the resources page of the Love and Abuse site. And you can access that if you have the Mean Workbook. But I'm going to read you the definition of it here and now, so it'll make sense what I'm talking about. Breadcrumbing, at least the way I define it, is when someone sends you emotionally engaging or even flirtatious texts, instant messages, voicemails, and other methods of communication in order to keep you thinking about them. This is sometimes used by abusers to make sure you continue to be interested in them so that they have a backup plan for when their other relationships fail, or they don't want to go too long without a relationship. The communications received are sometimes out of the blue, but are created in a way to cause you to respond. An example scenario I give is you break up with someone and you're hurt by the separation. Then out of the blue, weeks later, your ex sends you a message, How did your interview go? Hope you got the job. This sounds encouraging and supportive. You might even feel as if there's a chance of reconciliation. However, there was no mention of the breakup or anything else that should be talked about. Only a comment or question that makes you think they're being nice. Breadcrumbing keeps you guessing at what other person's intentions are. It is most often done with the intention of leading you on so that you stay interested in them. It can last months or even longer as you keep taking the bait. You usually end up with only the breadcrumbs, never the bread. That was my little addition at the end, because they're just trying to keep you following those breadcrumbs and they'll never end. Psychologists say that some people use breadcrumbing as a way to be in a relationship without the commitment and whenever they need a hookup, sex. If they need sex, they're going to breadcrumb you and find out what you're doing at 11 o'clock at night. And then if you have any emotional attachment to them, you might feel as if this is a reconnection, that they're reaching out, that maybe this is a way to show that they care. Breadcrumbing is not caring. Breadcrumbing is evil. It's not evil, but it's manipulative. It's a mean thing to do to someone because you're trying to influence their mind. Instead of them telling you what they really want, it's a lot easier when someone says, hey, we haven't seen each other in a while. I thought about you. Let's have sex. It would be bold, but at least it would be honest. Instead of putting that feeler out there, instead of putting that breadcrumb out there, hoping you follow it to the next one, to the next one. And I'm not saying it always is about sex, because I had a client once that was breadcrumbed continually that led nowhere. It never led to their connection in any way. In fact, you'll find that when you're breadcrumbed, a lot of breadcrumbers, the person doing it, won't want to commit to anything. They won't want to commit to even seeing you at a certain time. A lot of them are just making sure that they're always in your mind. As long as you're thinking about them, they get a high from it. It fulfills them in some way. So yes, there's a certain percentage of people that do this that just want that hookup. And then there are other people that get some sort of narcissistic supply from it, some sort of narcissistic high that you're thinking of them. And it can hurt. If you've been hurt by this person and you have thoughts that there could be reconciliation someday, and they're doing this stupid thing called breadcrumbing, and they just reach out to you out of the blue with some random comment or random question, it's going to feel like a light in the dark woods. You're going to be attracted to it. A lot of people are attracted to it like a moth to a flame. And the breadcrumber knows this. They know that they are still thought of. And what they're doing is making sure that you continue to do that over and over again so that you can't really find peace or closure in yourself. Because closure might mean letting them go. If you let them go, that's too painful for them to deal with. They don't want to be seen as the bad guy. They don't want to be seen as the person that is not attractive or is repelling you in some way. They don't want to be seen as that person. So what they'll do is they'll send out these little breadcrumbing texts or voicemails or messages on social media just to make you remember them and see them as a nice person. And if you've been breadcrumbed or you're being breadcrumbed, don't see it as a caring thing. It is not a caring thing. It is not someone who loves you. Someone who loves you will work on themselves, knows they need healing, and will work on that in themselves. And will tell you, look, I'm sorry for the way I showed up in the relationship and I'm working on myself. If you had that kind of relationship, if you had that kind of relationship where the other person wasn't treating you well or was just really odd or toxic in some way and you just had to get away from them. When you leave someone like that and they look inward and they go, wow, what did I do to ruin this relationship? What am I doing now? How am I screwing things up in my life? And they might even send you a message that says, I'm so sorry for how I showed up in the relationship. I totally understand. I need to work on myself. I find that a very loving thing to do. That's called letting go. That's called letting someone be, letting someone follow the path that they want to follow, not littering the path with breadcrumbs, telling them to keep thinking about me, keep thinking about me. That's a toxic form of influence and manipulation, and you're trying to steer someone's thoughts into liking you or loving you again. And doing that is very coercive. And if it works, if someone actually follows the breadcrumbs back to you and you get back together, it almost never works. It almost never lasts because the person doing the breadcrumbing isn't working on themselves. All they're doing is working on you to convince you to come back to them, or at least keep thinking about them. If it's not about getting you back together, it's about some sort of narcissistic high they want to be on. So the reason I wanted to mention this today is because it's an easy trap to fall into. And it could be a gray area like, well, he reached out a month later and just said, hey, how's it going? Just thinking about you. And it might seem innocent, but you have to watch for the signs. You have to understand where this is going. In fact, your response to something like that could be, what do you want? I mean, that's a simple question, right? What do you want? Then that person might say, well, I was thinking about you and just wondering how you're doing. You can respond with another question. Why? Well, I'm kind of lonely and I was thinking about us. What were you thinking about us? Keep asking, keep digging, because what they're doing probably is trying to get an emotional response from you, is trying to get the one thing they want to hear. I was hoping you'd reach out. I miss you too. Because even if they're not breadcrumbing you, even if their intentions are true, even if they're pure, asking questions is a good way to put someone on the spot so that the truth comes out. Because someone who really cares about you is going to say, I totally get why you're asking all these questions. I totally get where you're going. I know it's been a month and we haven't talked and suddenly I'm just calling you or texting you out of the blue. I totally get it. I just want to share something with you. And then they'll go into some deep revelations or deep insights that they've come up with. Someone who cares about you is going to share it that way. Someone who's trying to manipulate you will probably get angry. They'll probably say, what's with all these questions? Why are you asking all these questions? They don't want to dive in. They don't want to get into that. They don't want to make it about what's going on inside of them. They want to make it about coercing you into keeping them in mind, coercing you into a hookup, coercing you into continuing to think about you even though you're trying to move on. I want you to be aware of these games. Don't fall for these games. You're a lot better than that. You're a lot wiser than that. And if you haven't been wise to that, you are now. And you definitely deserve better than breadcrumbing. You deserve someone who's going to be upfront, honest, and will just tell you like it is. Even if the truth hurts. That's the best kind of truth if you ask me. When you hear truth that hurts. Otherwise, when I hear something that makes me feel really good, I question if it's truth. I mean, this is after if you had a breakup or you had a toxic relationship. When somebody comes along and says, I miss you so much, you're the best thing that's ever happened to me. I question their motives because it was so toxic. So why are you saying this? This is really odd and out of context here. Because if we look at the past, 6 months, 6 years, this isn't how you showed up and suddenly you're this way. I question that. Stay inquisitive. That's all I'm asking. Love and Abuse is the official podcast of the Mean Workbook, an assessment and healing guide for difficult relationships. If you want to pinpoint the exact behaviors causing the difficulties in your relationship, and you just want to find out if it's an emotionally abusive situation, head over to loveandabuse.com. This show exists to remind you that you are not alone, and you're not going crazy. You deserve to be treated with kindness and respect. You deserve honesty and sincerity. You deserve to be treated as worthy and significant, because you are. Thank you for joining me today. We'll talk again soon.